Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm Don Morrill, a UT faculty member and also an honored faculty member of the UT MFA. I see some of our alums here tonight too. Happy to see them out. And welcome to this last installment of the 16th UT MFA residency. Tonight, in terms of UT residencies, is night 143. Tomorrow will be night 144. 16, yes. So imagine being with all these people around here for 144 days. Wow. Anyway, I'm here and I'm again substituting for Erica, who's still recuperating, but it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Jerrod Schwarz, one of our UT alums, and it's my pleasure to read the introduction that Erica could not be here tonight, and so I do. It is an honor to introduce Jerrod Schwarz, part of our UT MFA family. Back in January 2015, I had the pleasure of being his first-term mentor. This morning, I went through my hard drive looking for poems he submitted in his very first packet. I quickly remembered why I was so taken with Jerrod's gifts right from the start. In a poem titled Knuckles, Midnight, and the Haven of an Empty Pool, he wrote this: Delilah dips her fist in the shallow end, slow punches the fallen oak blossom, watches chlorine force the new scabs open, forces the brown clots red, then pink, then nothing. My reaction then and now, a simple, yes, please, I'll have some more of this. This early poem says so much about Jerrod's skills, his deft eye for detail, his cadence, the precision, the ambition. I kept rereading his poems and finally opened his thesis. A thesis which essentially is two collections. First, No Name Atkins, a sequence of poems examining the life of Susan Atkins, a member of the Manson family. Then, Vaporwave, poems exploring the intersection of grief and technology. My response then and now to Jerrod's thesis, another simple yes, please, I'll have more of this. Luckily, Jerrod has given us much more. His work has appeared in PANK, Entropy, Maudlin House, The Femme, and many other journals and anthologies. He's the managing poetry editor of Driftwood Press, an indie establishment he founded with fiction writer James McNulty. He lives in Tampa with his wife and twin daughters, and teaches introduction to creative writing courses here at UT. I'm so happy to call him my colleague, call him my once upon a time mentee, who's now my friend and colleague. Let's welcome Jerrod Schwarz.
Can you hear me? Thank you, Don, via Erica, and thank you all for being here. I remember what the last reading is like. It's like you're wearing 10-pound boots, slogging up here. So it does mean a lot that you're coming out here. Thank you so much. I'm going to be reading a series of 5 poems that are from my chapbook, which is out there on the table, called Conjure. I've augmented these a little bit to be more succinct for this reading, a little bit more complete, but the only preconceived information you need is that these were written with the question in mind of, think about the person in your life that's hurt you the most. If you could confront them, truly confront them, what would you say? What would you do? Would you be forgiving? Would you be horrible? Would you be awful? Would you have retribution, or would you have peace? This was the kind of goal of this chapbook, and it's going to be what I'm going to read tonight. I'm going to read these 5 poems, just one right after the other, so I'll just say one more thank you, and additionally, I will give a warning that there is some instances of physical violence in these poems. 1. Bathtub. I buy blackout curtains, hang them around the bathtub, and sit for 3 days. The anemic touch of tile wall on my own skin. My wife and twin daughters beg me to come out, but nobody can break the salt circle. Your bones phase in first. I lay on my back in the tub and let calcium fall to rest on me. Your clavicle balances on my clavicle. Your spine curves over my chest and belly. Your metatarsals wedge into my toes. Your blood vessels root down from the shower head and stripe over your muscle fibers. I feel your grease in my leg hair. Before your brain and heart can connect, I shackle your arms to the faucet. You wake up to darkness and restraint. Beneath the sink, I have hidden a 40-pound medicine ball covered in the full sentences I can remember you saying. You know I don't believe in the devil, right? And you can call Rebecca mom if you want, and I think the bald look suits me. I drop the ball in your kneecaps. Your tongue is still forming and the scream diffuses in your raw throat, but I drop the medicine ball 4 more times, and then I stop. I don't want all of your ribs to crack. So I move on to your face. I shine my cell phone light up at my own face. I want you to see my nose, my ears, my hairline. You are darkness, but your growing tongue begs me, please, I don't know you, please let me go, please, is this hell? I take off my shirt and wrap it over your head. Your face hangs beneath the tub faucet, and I say, I have questions, and I turn the water as hot as it'll go. 2, towel closet. Nothing is ever really pitch black, and my eyes become globs of thin light burning from under the door, the keyhole. The skin around your mouth is fat and purple. The skin around your belly is yellow and scabbed. When I turn 50, a motorist is going to clip my elbow and I'm going to lose my left arm. Already a tumor is melting away my foot tendons, and if I father a 3rd child, I'm going to go blind in one eye. When I signed your name, Dad, in your first ever book, which is a skull and a tree limb and hot lava and cool lava all at the same time, I could only see in hands for 3 days after. My house made of fists, floors and ceilings made of open palms, the television an orgy of cracking knuckles. I could have conjured you somewhere special, a church, your truck, but I can't remember us ever being in the bathroom together. Do you want to see how I shave? Do you want to rub charcoal over the pores on my eyes? 3, master bathroom. Witchcraft is a trust muscle. I don't know where Dad's body osmosed from, but I know his blood cells are hours overdue. I'm fitting a mixture of rock salt and dog meat into his evaporating fingers when the bathroom walls fall over. I am suddenly candle smoke and Dad is thinner candle smoke, and we are suddenly sitting on a wood table. We're surrounded by 8 men and women wearing black sheets over their faces. Only one woman removes her veil. She says, the year is 1652. We're trying to reach the devil, but have clearly come up short. She continues, I can smell the words between you two. Fatherhood, cow, gut rot, God rot, blame. I can show you the rat king of fear you and your father share if you want. I say, send us back, and the black sheets are latex tight. She continues, I can pull out the moldy root you insist does not exist. I reply, send us back, and the black sheets burst their sinuses. She concedes, you've forgotten the weight of your own fingers. And the tile walls snap back up. I can feel my elbows again, but Dad's legs are still a diffusing cloud. Witchcraft is a trust muscle. When I rub my fingers over the fog where your shin should be, I know that something is waiting for your calves, waiting to flex you into a scramble. 4, master bedroom. I don't think I'm allowed to leave this room. Dad's here too, naked and dead, and pruny, chemo burns and flaccid. A brand new tattoo on my forearm reads, in all caps, do something to him. There's a laundry basket of broken glass in one corner and a set of dentist tools by the locked door. You all probably want me to strip down to my undershirt and hold him, hug him. I bet you see wildflowers blooming out of our mouths. I bet the door opens and we sprout matching wings and we say in unison, I've always loved you. But I can't give you a key I've never turned.
Why am I still so terrified to drag a body around by its tongue? I want emotional growth to mean not gagging when I eat your ears. I want that sleepy peace of knowing that vor fetishes and sucking the marrow from your knuckles are just different ways of saying never let me go. I'm going to be here all night making mistakes. I'm going to find out what the jelly in an eyeball tastes like, and I'm not going to stop just because your ribs are scattered across the floor. Yes, I know the window is always unlocked and cracked open. Yes, I see the glow of outdoor candles and smell the gentle fog of hot jasmine tea very close. But there is no universe where I give up hope, pinching out your first malignant wad of cells. There's no house where I don't draw the curtains. No house where I'm too weak to pick you up and drop you, to pick you up and throw you, to pick you up and beg to be picked up too. 5. First house. I did one of those spit in a tube DNA tests, mailed it in, and was informed by phone call that I had won a tour of their facility. I stepped out of the Uber, and a man in a pointless hard hat gave me a rundown of the exterior. There's the retention pond. Here's where we melt down the used test tubes. And well, there's the smokestacks. After 2 minutes of silence, I asked, so is the inside off limits, or... He sat down on the parking lot asphalt and pointed to the front door, which is always open. I want you to imagine a poorly lit airplane hangar. A trough of red, bubbling lava cuts the space into 4 sections, and the wreckage of my childhood home is suspended in the middle. I walk closer and see magma dripping off of everything. Heat pouring from the plywood staircase, beads of molten rock sweating off of the apple trees in our backyard, fire slobbering out of my first dog's mouth, and my parents laughing, my parents charring each other over and over again. Up close, the lava is blinding, yes, but I know I'm not the only person or thing invited here today. I hear the dead horses tripping over themselves. I hear the throng of church steeples tiptoeing along the ceiling, and I feel every single broken wedding ring kinking around my ankles. I have no idea how to want to leave something broken, how to walk away from melted bones, how to look at a volcano and not wonder how it tastes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jerrod. Welcome back. Congrats on the chapbook. I'm Alan Michael Parker. I'm faculty here at UT, and it is my honor to introduce this evening Jason Ockert. Here at UT, I have one of the best jobs in the world, at least for me, given that as a young person, I was fired from Swenson's soda shop, from the college bookstore for reading, from licking chicken on Bloor Street, from babysitting for the Grossman twins, from waving people into the Carolina car wash, from August evenings where I worked as a parking attendant for a bow-tied glue sniffer named August, who owned a pug named Hitler. I was also fired from lawn mowing by my own parents. Don't ask, don't tell. From flipping burgers by the country club pool, and yes, you know where I flipped the burger. I was fired from waiting tables at a piano bar frequented by Billy Joel. I hate Billy Joel. Billy Joel has an enormous head. I was fired from driving a short bus filled with summer campers in Queens, New York, whose back door had the unfortunate tendency to fly open when the bus hit a pothole. "Hold on," I'd yell, and the campers would howl like wolves. The reason that I know that my job here is so good is that yesterday a student told me that she would kill to have my job. Now, I understand that this is neither healthy nor helpful, but I didn't take it personally, because I think the student was probably telling the truth despite herself, and that she was also lying, which is the blend of realism, truth-telling, lying, dramatic irony, and pure bullshit that I would like to consider in these remarks about Jason Ockert's writing. Before turning my thoughts to questions of his originality. Of course, the students' comments arrived under the influence, by which I mean that she has been watching me hang out here in Tampa with the only job I've ever kept, which makes me feel like I'm part of an in crowd, or at least so she thinks. And she felt bad because graduate school makes you feel bad. And she has no idea the thoughts I have after 8 nights trapped in a hotel room with carpeting that looks like a Stephen Hawking doodle. Does she want to kill me, my beloved, adoring graduate student? Yes. And the reason I know this is because the same student has already studied with Jason Ockert, a writer who kills characters better than any other writer I know. Ockert does more with the go-to creative writing workshop game of what if than most anyone else in the business. What if everything I can imagine actually happened? What if our worst desires were met by worser events? How weird can I get away with? What if I dress a dead deer in my hoodie and then hit it with a train? What if wasps laid eggs in our brains and then the eggs hatched and then the baby wasps flew out of our mouths and we went insane? These are all things of his. What if I say that there are triangles in every story? How many people will believe that? He's a mean one, Mr. O. In that, of course, his meanness means something. The world's dismissal of us underlies his work, where the cruelty of realism is constantly being challenged by the loving kindness of individualism, as seen through the generosity of comedy. And I'll repeat the phrase, because it's key to my claims here. In Ockert's stories and novels, the cruelty of realism is constantly being challenged by the loving kindness of individualism. That is, the loved-up foibles and quirks of who we are, as seen through comedy. In this description, you might hear the rumble of George Saunders' thunder, who was Ockert's teacher at Syracuse. But in the work, Ockert isn't Saunders, or Flannery O'Connor, or Cormac McCarthy, or Donald Barthelme, or Joy Williams, or Barry Hammond, although I see the leadings of each of those fine writers in Ockert's aesthetics. Instead, he's an original, a word that I like to consider for another minute, begging your indulgence, with a complete non sequitur. In the early 1900s, the great English painter John Singer Sargent was commissioned to paint a portrait of Aileen, Lady Sassoon. He did so, but the family hated the result. The conversation with the family inspired Sargent to offer perhaps his most famous remark, which is hard since he was a painter and not remembered for his words. Quote, "It seemed," that was funny. Quote, "It seems that there is something wrong with the mouth. A portrait is a painting with a little something wrong about the mouth." End quote. Ultimately, Sargent prevailed. He won the argument and the painting won the war of mouths. The family bought the work, which was ultimately included in the 1907 exhibition of the Royal Academy. Originality, I would argue, is all about getting the mouth wrong. And Ockert's mouths are always wrong. In their wrongness, their wrong ways, their wrongifying, their wrongitude, their wrongifications, all the wrong words right. Ockert as a writer is his most original, and perhaps his most right. Who we are is indeed how we see as writers. Few writers get the mouth wrong, more wrong than Jason Ockert.
Oh boy. Thank you, Amp. That was lovely. I have a It's like, fuck, I did that wrong. So it's awesome to be able to share the stage here with Jerrod. Those wonderful poems. Thanks so much for sharing them with us. And yeah, it's great to be here tonight as well. I don't know if you can hear me in the back there. Okay, we all right in the back? Thank you guys. That's cool. Yeah, so, you know, I've taken the time, and some of our colleagues in the past have read new material up here, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to follow that tradition. This is a brand new story that I finished a couple of months ago. It's for sure a little rough around the edges, but I'm going to deliver it that way anyway. One of the things I love about the 9th floor reading up here is just the landscape, you know, the coolness of the Tampa. But what I really like about this place, and you can't see it quite as much here, are the birds that are out there. You know, sometimes I'll be checking out the birds while they're flying out in the 9th floor window. So I encourage you, during this reading, to check out the birds outside the window. All right, this is called Golden Vulture. The swirling turkey vultures ride the zephyrs in the lazy blue sky. They circle counterclockwise, stirring the afternoon. They're dutifully drawn to decaying flesh. The more putrid the carcass, the more pungent the scent, the more birds in the kettle. Whatever rots below will be devoured when the scavengers decide it's time. By the boy's count, there are 8 turkey vultures, but he's really only interested in the one with golden wings. It whirls with the others, loop by loop, easy to spot, even at a distance. Before concluding that the wings were made of gold, Hoyt thought it might be a trick of the light. Sunshine in summertime can be deceptive. He's seen diamonds of dew on blades of grass evaporate and quarters shimmering at the bottom of the community pool turn into gumwads. From his tree fort, he's watched sparks of gold rise from the earth and hover in the branches. Before his childhood brain can right itself, those fireflies are worth a fortune. Hoyt has given the vulture ample the opportunity to prove it doesn't exist. The boy recently turns 10, which is an in-between age in terms of make-believe. He hasn't lost all his baby teeth, but he has lost faith in the tooth fairy. When a knocking sound startles him awake in the middle of the night, he knows it's just the wind. His imaginary friends have been replaced by unimaginative flesh and blood boys. A teacher once said that when you hear a ringing in your ear, it means that someone is thinking about you, and although he wishes this was true and his mother was thinking of him on those few occasions when he hears a high-pitched tingle, he's not sold on the idea. He doesn't believe in ghosts, but he's not ready to dismiss God. Seeing Satan seems silly, but the boy has sensed demons. Sometimes Hoyt feels an entity beside him. It's a warm pulse of energy that suddenly descends for no discernible reason. It only appears when the boy blinks, which means that he can never see it. After giving it considerable thought, Hoyt has concluded that the thrumming energy is a version of himself, a shadow self, living a heartbeat in the past or else a heartbeat in the future. Sometimes the shadow self is trying to hold him back. Sometimes it tugs him forward. Either way, he has no idea what it wants. He wonders if he is a shadow self to a different blinking Hoyt living in another dimension. Maybe that other Hoyt wonders whether the here and now Hoyt wants what the here and now Hoyt wants too. Hoyt spotted the bird through binoculars from his tree fort in the woods behind his house shortly after he'd scarfed down a bologna sandwich. It's early June when the whippoorwills trill and the ants stretch the ground into wavering, segmented lines. After determining that the wings were real, Hoyt concocted his plan. He fetched his slingshot, a pillowcase, and some duct tape. Now, all he has to do is track it down, shoot it from the sky, wrap its beak, carry it home, and cram it into Granger's dog carrier. The dead dog don't need it no more. After that, he'll pull out feathers and grow into a rich, rich man. The boy begins his adventure tired but in high spirits. He moves quickly with his unusual gait. Hoyt lopes, always has. Instead of swinging arms and pumping legs and holding his head high, the boy keeps his spine straight, shoulders hunched, elbows pinned to his side, and head down. He takes 2-step strides. He's learned to walk this way by traversing the railroad tracks. There is no train anymore. Hasn't been for as long as the boy remembers. The tracks are a quarter mile behind his modest house in his quiet neighborhood. Used to not be so quiet, says Dad. Dad works the graveyard shift with the road crew on the interstate and sleeps through days. Back then, even without the big racket, there was always the anticipation of sound, his father has explained. I still hear it echoing in my skull from time to time. The damn trains woke the dog, who woke you, and once you started wailing, there was no stopping it. The racket drove your mother up a wall, then out the door. Boyd has no memory of being a screaming baby, nor does he recollect when his mother left. The last time he asked his father why she left, he said, "We already discussed this." The time before Hoyt had asked him why his mother had left, as Hoyt recalls, his dad had said the same thing, "We already discussed this." So that now the boy is convinced that they must have discussed why she left, even though he has no memory of that discussion and cannot, for the life of him, pinpoint the reason for the leaving. It might have been an instance when he was rapidly blinking and his father confused him for his shadow self. If the shadow self knows the reason Mom disappeared, the boy hopes that he'll figure out a way to share it with him soon. The only evidence of a train and a mother is a photograph Hoyt keeps in his sock drawer. In the shot, his 5-year-old self is hoisting an ice cream sundae so big it covers the lower half of his face. His mother has a cherry, the one she plucked from his sundae, perched between her lips, and she is laughing. Laughing, Hoyt guesses, at something funny Mr. Loco just said. Back when there were trains, there was an ice cream boxcar called Locomotives. The owner referred to himself as Mr. Loco. He wore a multicolored conductor's hat and handed out complimentary plastic toy whistle cabooses. When the train grinded to a halt, he'd throw open a window, crank up his catchy ditty, "Go crazy for ice cream, 'cause ice cream's crazy for you." And the wide-eyed kids who lived along the tracks would scuttle out of their ramshackle houses with their sweat-stained clothes, all ill-fitting shoes, and gobble up those sweet treats. Once the passengers were all aboard, Mr. Loco was off to the next stop. The sticky-mouthed children slouched back from where they're from. The few stories Dad has told Hoyt about Mom always feature her as sad. Down, out, fidgety. Couldn't keep her hands still, he said. In the picture, though, she seems as happy as anyone Hoyt has seen. She's purposefully crossing her eyes, clowning around. Her thin wrists are turned upwards, hands bent at odd angles, frozen in some goofy dance. There's a strand of her hair dipping into Hoyt's hot fudge. It's quite possible the boy ate that blonde wisp. You can't see Mr. Loco in the photograph, but the boy knows he's there because of one hairy hand hovering near Mom's neck. Against her vulnerable alabaster skin, his sharp fingernails are dirty and long. In the shot, Mr. Loco appears to be reaching for Mom's throat. That picture was taken a half-lifetime ago. Shortly after, Mom left and the trains quit. Without the possibility of a train coming, there's no danger of getting flattened. Railroad weeds slope up the embankment and shoot out of the gravelly soil between the ties. The track resembles the exposed spine of a dormant rust dragon, waiting to awaken and rise from the earth. The boy used to hope that he'd be there when the dragon awoke, so he could clutch its neck and flap off to some rusty, remote island. He'd have his cool pet smote anyone that got in his way. Then Hoyt felt guilty for imagining a better pet, while Granger, with his hip dysplasia and incontinence, still wagged his patchy tail and cast half-lidded, roomy, optimistic eyes at the boy every time Hoyt hurried outside. So, no dragons, no pets. The Golden Wings turkey vulture is a business accusation. To maintain a sense of distance from it, he's not even going to give it a name. Leprechauns and genies are never given names, after all. Wishers don't want to get too emotional with their prize givers, or else they'll start feeling rotten about their wishes. Just because there aren't trains doesn't mean there isn't danger along the rail. Dad's given Hoyt exploration boundaries. He's allowed to traipse as far north as the water tower and south to Miller's Gorge. Under no circumstances is he allowed to traverse the railway bridge. Last summer, while father and son were doing dishes in the kitchen and watching the sunset, Dad gave 2 reasons why Hoyt was forbidden to cross the bridge. Dad, in fact, often gives 2 reasons. He has offered 2 reasons why you shouldn't leave the front door open. You'll let the air conditioning escape and flies come in. There are 2 reasons you make your bed every morning: to keep your room presentable in case of a visitor, and because it's better to fall asleep when the sheets are tight. If you can't think of a mate for a single reason, he'll say, and also because I said so. First reason Dad offered for not crossing the bridge is that Hoyt might slip and fall to his death in the rocky ravine below. A half dozen times a year, folks die this way. And though Dad didn't mention it, Hoyt's heard the rumors and seen the infamous railroad plank spray painted a faded red that some really sad people hang themselves from that hunk of wood. The second reason Dad gave is that Birch is bad news. Birch used to be a coal-producing company town that had a school, library, bowling alley, shopping mall, and a roller skating rink. Then, many miners got black lung and sued the company before dying. The lawyers made a killing. The company went belly up. Now Birch is Birch in name only. Those who could afford to scurry away did. Everyone else stayed and waited for a coal man with a conscience to roll into town and make the mines operational and safe. Fat chance of that, Dad said, drying a milk glass with a dish towel. Only a fool believes in miracles. What's worse is when a fool quits believing. Then he becomes desperate. And desperate folks, Dad said with a damp hand on his son's shoulder, are dangerous, so stay out of Birch. Last summer, the boy still believed in miracles. That's why he disobeyed his father and crossed the bridge. He wondered back then if his mother might be over there. For 1 full week, Hoyt loped over to Birch and searched for her. He started out with high hopes and visited the few remaining shops in the ruined mall. He went to the barber shop. He loitered outside 3 different bars, places where he felt sorrow oozing out every time the front door opened. At the end of that week last summer, Hoyt had learned 3 things. 1, neither crossing a railway bridge nor the ruins town of Birch was really dangerous. 2, Mom wasn't there. 3, miracles, schmiracles. If he knew, Dad would say that hunting the golden-winged turkey vulture is dumb and dangerous. But Dad doesn't know. He's slumbering at home and won't wake for hours. Ordinarily, Hoyt doesn't hear his dad return around 4. This morning, his father slammed the front door and startled the boy awake. He wasn't able to fall back asleep. Eating breakfast this morning at the kitchen counter, Hoyt decided that he was going to take a nap in the treehouse later. That was before he saw the golden-winged bird. There's no time for napping now. The day is bright. Summer break yawns across the calendar. The boy carries the pillowcase over his shoulder, Santa Claus style. Inside with the duct tape are a dozen donut-hole-sized rocks he's gathered from the creek bed. The frame of the slingshot is made with steel with surgical tubing attached to the uprights. The pocket is made of genuine leather. Closing one eye, slowing his breathing, and drawing the sling back to the tip of his nose, Hoyt can smash a bottle from 20 yards away easy. As he lopes, the boy alternates from checking the sky to make sure that the vulture is still circling and looking down to keep from tripping. Soon, he's at the bridge, then upon it. The water below is brown. The faded red tie is about midway, and Hoyt steps over it. The clouds are too high and strung out to resemble anything. The warm wind blows through the ravine, and it does not cool the boy. Soon, he's across. Once Hoyt's on the other side, in Birch, he approaches the dozen or so company homes built nearly atop the railroad. The houses here are tall and thin and resemble half-gallon cartons of chocolate milk stacked side by side. Last summer, Hoyt knocked on every door and inquired about his mom to the few suspicious occupants who opened up. Nobody knew anything. Hoyt has learned that nobody ever knows anything, really. Not where his mom is, or why the trains quit, not how coal gets into lungs, or why dogs die. The best part of knowing that nobody knows anything is that you don't have to feel bad when you don't know something too. Like why some vultures are made out of gold. Beyond the dilapidated homes is a 3-story apartment building. It's a place Hoyt never bothered to visit. Each unit has a small balcony enclosed by a metal rail, and the facade resembles a set of teeth with braces in bad need of a good brushing. Plastic bags and styrofoam food cartons litter the unkempt, balding hedges a landscaper once planted in a half-hearted effort to provide privacy from the railroad. In the bright sunlight, the imperfections are glaring. Hoyt has to squint to see clearly. Overhead, in the tangle of scavengers, the bird with the golden wings soars above the rooftop. Clinging to the side of the building is a fire escape stairwell, zigzagging to the 3rd floor. Though the boy can easily climb 2 steps at once, he crouches low and slinks slowly. Just because the birds are attracted to death doesn't mean they don't fear it. He may only get 1 shot at this. If his aim is true, his life will change forever. His father can quit work, and they can build a fortress. He'll teach Dad how to play video games. They'll horse around in the pool with the water slide and eat ice cream from bowls made out of cookies. He'll buy a bright blue train and hire someone to paint all of the railroad ties a rainbow pattern, and he'll sit in the caboose and throw candy at the awe-stricken children lining the tracks, and cotton candy will pop out of the steam pipe and make the air taste super sweet. When the boy is halfway up the rickety stairwell, he catches a thick whiff of rot. With every step, the stench grows, and by the time he's at the top, he's worn out and his unblinking eyes are wide. The neck of the pillowcase is wet with sweat where he clutches it. There, on the stained concrete balcony floor, there's a large oval-shaped platter heaped with a pile of dead rats. Bright white teeth gleam in the sunlight. The long, slender tails drape over the lip of the plate. When the hovering pulse of black flies land upon the mess, wiry whiskers quiver. The sudden unexpected shift in the breeze blows the putrid scent full over the boy, and he turns his entire body away to shield himself. He staves off a rising gag and dips his mouth and nose into his shirt front. Then Hoyt hears someone say, "Hello?" And he realizes he's not alone. There's a partially open sliding glass door that leads from the balcony into the apartment. Against the glare of the glass, it's impossible for him to see inside. What he can see is his reflection, and he's embarrassed by it. Here is a cowering boy with his face tucked into his sweat-drenched shirt, a heartbeat away from fleeing. That's not how he imagined he'd look when he started out on this adventure. Before he has time to remake himself, the glass door slides fully open, and in its place is a thin woman in a hooded sweatshirt and loose jeans. Her dark hair is shocked in streaks of gray, and it shoots out from her head in a wild revolt. The woman's face is aggravated by red splotches, as if she were mindlessly rubbing fingertips against her forehead, temples, and jaw. Her eyes are all pupils, 2 black holes sucking in cavernous cheekbones. When she opens her mouth to speak, her dry lips reluctantly part. "I was expecting you around front," she says. Hoyt slides his shirt down so the woman can see his face clearly. He wants to show her that he isn't who she thinks he is. The woman's expression doesn't change. "Come on in," she says, before disappearing inside. If Dad were here, he'd have more than 2 reasons why Hoyt shouldn't follow along to the apartment. Surely it's a trap. She probably poisoned the rats in order to poison the golden-winged vulture. A woman like that might try to poison him too. It was foolish of the boy to think that he was the only one who had spotted it. Of course, she would expect company. For all he knows, more prospectors are on the way. He'll have to proceed with caution. It takes a few moments to blink out the daylight so Hoyt's eyes can adjust to the darkness inside. The space is small. There's a wooden coffee table in front of a sagging couch. On the table are a pack of cigarettes, a lighter, and an ashtray. A rocking chair is positioned across from the couch. In the tiny dining room, behind a crooked light dangling from a brass chain, is an enormous harp. A stool sits beside it. The harpist, Hoyt presumes, is in the kitchen, standing at the counter, watching the boy. "Close the slider," she says. "I can't afford to air condition the outside." As far as Hoyt can tell, they are alone. The glass door slides smoothly shut. "What took you so long?" the woman asks. Hoyt sets his pillowcase on the table and stands next to it. In one fluid motion, the boy could brandish the slingshot and defend himself if things go sideways. "I came as soon as I could." "You're pretty young to be a runner." "I'm plenty old," Hoyt says, standing as tall as he can. "And I didn't run." "All right," the harpist says. "I'm no one to judge. You are perspiring. It's hot. I'll get you water. Feel free to sit down." Hoyt shifts his weight onto his heels and crosses his arms. One thing he's learned from school is that you shouldn't do what a teacher tells you right away, or else she'll start thinking that she can bully you into taking tests and doing homework. If he sits, when she says sit, he's her pet. He'll sit if and when it pleases him. Stealing a quick peek outside, he finds that the birds are still overhead. I guess your plan is poison. That's not what I had in mind. The harpist turns the faucet on and murky water pours into a green coffee mug. What? She says. I was just going to stun it and pluck feathers one by one as needed. If you kill it, you cut off the supply. Turning the faucet off, the harpist holds the mug in her hand and frowns. I'm not following you. The golden-winged vulture, outside. The boy juts his chin at the slider. The harpist isn't wearing shoes. Hoyt notices this as she crosses from the kitchen tile onto the stained carpet in the living room to stand by his side. There's somebody out there? Were you followed? No, Hoyt says, his voice cracking. I'm talking about the golden-winged vulture. The what? Golden vulture? Up there, with the others, Hoyt points. The harpist follows the boy's finger. Her thin face remains puzzled. Yeah, I see them. They're the signal. What signal? The signal that notifies Mr. Loco, tells him I'm ready for a delivery. Those are his rules, not mine. I didn't order Golden Vulture. Who did you just say? Mr. Loco, the harpist replies. Barefoot, she's 2 inches taller than the boy. You do work for him, right? Hoyt keeps his mouth shut and tries to work through the confusion. Either the woman has terrible breath, or else he can smell the rot from the rats outside seeping in through the slider. The apartment seems to be getting cloudy. So you don't work for him? No. You saw the birds and came on your own. I came from the Golden Vulture. You and I can work out a deal, but I'm not sharing with anyone else. For a moment, the two stand in silence, studying one another. The boy wants to ask about Mr. Loco so badly that he can't bring himself to do so. The man might know where his mother is. Hoyt had no idea that Mr. Loco was still in business and that he delivered his ice cream. Of course, it makes sense. People could not eat coal anymore, but they still need dessert. I think I will sit down, Hoyt says. He slumps onto the couch and places his hands in his lap. The harpist, still clutching the mug of water, shifts her dark eyes from the boy to the sack on the coffee table. Golden Vulture, she repeats. Yeah, I guess Mr. Loco knows about it. If he does, he didn't mention it to me. Well, it's here now. I see, the harpist says, folding her arms. What does Golden Vulture do? It changes our lives. How much does it cost? It doesn't cost anything. It pays us if we can get it. I see, the harpist says again. And when she says this, Hoyt knows that she actually doesn't see. People only repeat themselves when they're uncertain of something. Also, the boy can tell that the harpist is scheming. Her eyebrows are bunched together, her lips are slanted into a false smile, and she is breathing out of her mouth. This is exactly the same expression the boy adopts when he's scheming. If his mind wasn't so full, he might be able to draw the comparison by glancing at his reflection in the sliding glass door. Neither boy nor harpist notices the similarities. Hoyt's old plan was to capture the vulture and live like a king. Actually, the old plan, the reason he visited Birch last year, was to track down his mom. Though Hoyt doesn't believe in fate, it is a strange coincidence that the golden-winged vulture led him to the harpist who ordered ice cream from Mr. Loco, who used to know his mother. That's a fact. The proof is in the photograph. You know, the harpist says, breaking them both out of their daydream, I might have some donuts in the pantry. Do you like donuts? What kind? Glazed. Glazed are my favorites. The harpist returns to the kitchen. She pulls a box of donuts from the pantry and arranges them on a plate. I'm going to make you some lemonade, she says. For a moment, she disappears beneath the sink. When she stands back up, she pours a white powder out of a Tupperware container into the mug. Withdrawing a teaspoon, she stirs the drink slowly. Then she gathers the items and moves into the living room. She sets the plate on the coffee table and the mug and spoon beside the lighter. Up close, the boy can see that her fingernails are ragged, bitten down to jagged and inflamed slivers. Her hands are trembling as if she is trying to control a rising fear or else escalating excitement. Help yourself. Probably, the boy decides. The food isn't poisoned. He just saw her take the donuts out of the pantry. Besides, the harpist isn't threatening. Also, he's suddenly ravenous. Lunch was eons ago. He snatches a donut, takes a big bite, and chews with his mouth open, a habit his father has failed to break. Do you play? The boy mumbles. Not well anymore. A familiar faraway sadness creeps into the harpist's wet eyes. He says, I'm sure that's not true. I bet you're real good. I used to be decent. I was in an orchestra. Why'd you quit? I didn't. I was cut. How come? I slipped on a patch of ice and snapped my wrist. Just like that, my dreams ended. The bone healed funny. Look, she says, holding up her arm. See how crooked? Yeah. The weak wrist means slow fingers. If your fingers don't fly, the harp will chomp you up. Hoyt swallows down the last of his donut. He considers the instrument and says, it looks like a mouth. I've never seen one in person before. Some say it resembles a wing. I can see that. Have you ever heard it? I don't think so. You have, you just don't remember. Here, she says, I'll play you something. She enters the dining room, adjusts the stool, straddles the short end of the instrument, and tilts the body of the harp towards her. Her head is on the other side of the strings, and it appears as if she is looking at the boy through bars, or else the other way around. The boy is the one in the cage. This is called Alessandro, she says. Alessandro, she says, draping her arm around the harp and quickly running her thumbs and fingertips from one end to the other. Hoyt snags a second donut from the plate and reclines into the couch so he has a better view. Cool. I'll play a little bit of Fantasia. It makes boys and girls swoon. You'll recognize the tune. It's about a sorcerer's apprentice. The harpist gently plucks the strings and coats his outer rhythm. Her body sways with her face remaining tight and severe. Her eyes stay locked on Hoyt. Whatever sadness they held is gone. When she speaks, the boy cannot see her lips move. Her words rise out of the harp. Be sure to wash that down with lemonade. Hoyt lifts the mug to his lips. In the dim, bluish afternoon light, the liquid looks brown. When he takes a sip, it tastes bitter. You sure this isn't tea? Tell me about Golden Vulture, the harpist says. How does it make you feel? Excited, of course. Euphoric? Maybe. I don't know what that means. Real good. I think I'll feel real good if I can catch it. Hoyt gulps the lemonade to see if it tastes more like lemonade the second time around. It doesn't, so he drinks more. Then he decides that it's tea, which he doesn't like. He picks another donut from the plate. Do you recognize the score? The what? The melody. Not really. Try a little harder. Hoyt devours the donut and listens. Eventually he says, maybe I have heard it. My mom might have played it when I was younger. Hoyt sinks further into the couch and props his head on the arm. She knows Mr. Loco, Hoyt says. He made her laugh. He makes many mothers happy. Do you think he'll be here soon? Close your eyes. Picture the apprentice dressed in his red robes. See him wave his hands. He believes he's in charge of the entire universe. He conducts lightning and thunder. He sends the waves high into the sky. The harpist moves her fingers like nimble spiders. The song sounds like it's having a panic attack. Hoyt takes one last big bite and then closes his eyes. I remember. He wore a purple hat, didn't he? With stars on it. The rise and fall of the notes makes Hoyt feel as if he's on a boat at sea, or else a magic carpet riding currents in the wind. But he was only dreaming, she says quietly, while slowly strumming the strings. No matter how badly he yearns to be a magician, he's only the apprentice. Hoyt listens. A gathering blanket of darkness presses down. After some time has passed, the harpist says, can I ask you something? Sure, the boy says. The music has stopped, he thinks. Maybe he can still hear it. What are you going to do with your fingers? What? Your fingers. They're sticky. From the donuts. Why don't you lick them clean? All right, the boy says, though he doesn't move. Maybe, the harpist says, you won't mind if I have a taste? The boy's not certain he heard right. He thinks she's asking him to leave her the last donut. That is, if there is another donut left, he can't remember if he ate them all. It's too much work to open his eyes and to check. That's fine, he says. In the dream, the boy's fingers are cheese. Rats gnaw them down to bone. A wolf knocks, a cauldron bubbles, the hands of a clock stab out his eyes. Hoyt awakens into crimson light. He surveys the room, and very little of what he sees makes sense. His empty pillowcase is crumpled on the floor with its contents, the round rocks he gathered from the creek bed, and the unused duct tape strewn across the coffee table. There's a steak knife next to his ruined slingshot. The harpist has severed the surgical tubing. The teaspoon holds a charred black oval. A small glass vial sits next to a plastic red cap. The plate is empty. The outside rot stench is more pungent than it was before. The boy's fingertips are red and raw. The harpist slumps in the rocking chair, a syringe at her bare feet. Her sweatshirt sleeves are rolled up. The tubing from his slingshot is draped around her left arm. Her eyes are cast in the general direction of the boy. There's blood on her lips and a thorn in her smile. You poisoned me, Hoyt mutters. You ruined my slingshot. When he sits up, his dizzy body seems to follow an instant behind. I miss Mr. Loco. Part of him longs for sleep. The darker part is breaking free. Without warning, Hoyt snaps. His shadow self accelerates. In a blink, he's off the couch, snatching the knife, and with quick, methodical precision, he repeatedly jabs the blade deeply into the harpist's chest. The wet, sucking sound each slash makes is punctuated by a warm blood spray. The sensation feels familiar. It rings a bell. He's done all this before. The reason his mother is gone is because he killed her. Stab, 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 stab. After a while, the whir stills. The boy's body catches up with the boy. Soon, reason returns. Mom's not dead. She's just gone. The shadow scuttles back into the folds of the brain. Hoyt sits on the couch with his upturned hands on his knees. He's sweating and breathing heavy. The harpist is in the chair, making joking noises. She's not dead or dying. She's laughing. What's so funny? I couldn't figure out why you came, but I see now. The harpist has turned her wobbly eyes towards the balcony. That gold bird, it's all yellow pain, she says, before doubling over in laughter and nearly tumbling out of the rocker. Pain? Yellow pain, she spits out. Hoyt turns his attention away from her. On the balcony, the golden-winged vulture is fretting over the rats. Up close, Hoyt can see that its reddish head is the same color as the suicide tie. The hooked beak dips and rends. Its unblinking gray-brown eyes nest in a wrinkled face. The tops of the wings are black. Only the underside, which Hoyt glimpses when the bird flaps its wings to ward away the other vultures, is golden. Although it's not gold, it's yellow paint. He locates a truth in the vulture's eyes, a scavenger descending upon carrion along the side of a freshly painted interstate. With the vulture perched so close, it's easy for Hoyt to imagine its rapturous feasting. He can picture it flailing its wings in order to claim his portion of the kill. He can envision it along the highway shoulder, sloshing in wet paint and slick blood, gorging with abandon while cars whiz close and swiftly by. And now it's here, eating poisoned rats with a single-minded hunger. The boy can't decide if before him is a stupid beast or a fearless survivor. Hoyt stands and collects his things. He opens the slider and the vultures scatter. He steps over the remains of the rats, descends the stairs, and leaves the sorceress in her hysterical delirium. Outside, it's later than Hoyt expects, darker than he realized. He walks toward the tracks, and through the dwindling twilight, heads home. His mother is and isn't in Birch. Hoyt suspects that he is not alone with his shadow self. There may be a vast army of shadow selves, shoving and tugging at other people as they blink their way through life. When he's upon the railway bridge, Hoyt observes a flock of thrushes rising out of the ravine into the cooling air to hunt mosquitoes. Not vultures, not gold, just birds. Watching them disperse into the dusk, it occurs to Hoyt that they are either too many mysteries for the worlds to possibly contain, or else none at all. Thank you.
Once more for the readers tonight. Majestic work. Well, I can't really say more than that truly concludes the Lectores reading series for this year, or this session of the MFA. I'm sure that Jason and Jerrod would be happy to sign books up front and answer questions and also give you...
We're going to go into 4 green fields later if anybody wants to go.
The one closer to the hotel?
Yeah, by Sykes, yeah.
The one by Sykes, the one close to the hotel. 4 green fields, it's a literary party. So grab your retinue and let's go, okay? Take care of it.